Hey there, Dental Adventures. Welcome back into this limited series podcast on startup marketing tips, kind of getting started on the right track and going a little bit deeper than that, right? We're going to be talking about leadership, how that affects your culture, how your culture affects your brand, and how all of that together will make your marketing spend go a lot better and go a lot quicker. If you want to scale and grow quickly, this is the podcast for you. So, this is actually the last episode in this section. Okay, so we're going to actually flip over to internal branding and start getting into more of that marketing on the next episode. But this episode is really important because I've worked with hundreds of startups at this point, dental startups, and one of the hardest things is the emotional side of doing a startup. And so I want to talk about that before we, really start diving into what we're doing so that you kind of have an idea of what to be thinking about. I also want to make sure you put a really good group of advisors around you. I've already talked about that a little bit, but it's just key to making sure you get off on the right foot with your startup. So a lot of that fear in the beginning, and you're all going to have it, and that's okay, right? You should have confidence going into it. You know what you're doing from the clinical side. You're going to be able to do the things you want to do there. Process and systems, I find dentists usually find their way with that. We've helped a lot of people with that, but at the same time, I kind of feel like those are the areas that dentists come in knowing a great deal. But the biggest fear is financial insecurity, I think. That's what I find. And, people start asking their questions. Okay, am I going to be putting my family in a bad situation? Am I walking away from a high paying job? People get to that whole, what am I actually thinking here? Is this a good idea? And I'll be honest with you, it very much is. I want you to have confidence going in. It is hard to screw this up. I mean, it really, really is. I've yet to have a dental startup that failed. And I'm not saying they're not out there. But I've just never seen one. So the biggest thing to think about is go into it, know that there is that fail safe down the road, that if you're like, this is too much, I don't want to continue doing this, you can always go back to be an associate. So go into this with confidence. Okay. But let's talk a little bit about, that financial insecurity. The first thing that you have to start doing is thinking about what your relationship with money is. Do you find yourself being debt averse, or are you on the opposite of that and you're more impulsive and you overspend? Either way, you need to find the middle ground, and you need to start developing a really solid financial plan. And I'm not talking about where you're going to invest your money and stocks and brokerage accounts and real estate and all that. What I'm talking about right now is just getting comfortable with borrowing money and how you're going to put that together and how you're going to, feed your family over the next 3 to 6 months as you're getting started. Now, banks are great because they're going to give you a lot of working capital. But what I've seen is a lot of people use that working capital for things other than growth, right? They might use it for technology. They might use it for, maybe they go ahead and do some things in the build out that they probably should have waited on. Because I know from a marketing perspective, the amount of times that startups have come to us last, right? It's like, hey, we're opening in a month. We need a website. We need to get some marketing going, which is way too late in all honesty. But that doesn't mean you can't pull it together and get going, right? I mean, the best time to start's today, correct? So I don't want to scare any of you that have already got into the dental startup side and you're like, okay, I'm 6 months in and struggling. Nope. This just means you're going to struggle a few more months and then you're going to be fine. Just listen to the tips we've got here. But back to this financial situation and thinking about it, I always tell people, and I may have mentioned this already, right? If you've got a great accountant and a great financial advisor, and again, not a financial advisor that's telling you where to invest your money, they're just helping guide you along the way to say, here are the milestones you need to hit. Here's what you need to be thinking about for budgets. They give you advice. They give you encouragement. They work with, your other advisors, like people like us that are coaching, that are mentoring, that are, doing marketing. So you want to make sure you've got the advisory board in place. I cannot stress this enough. You have to have this in place because you need to have those people you can call, because emotionally there's going to be times you question things. And these are the people that are going to make you feel better about it and keep you going and encourage you and give you the confidence because you are going to be successful. Like I said, I've never seen one fail. So another fear is the fear of failure. I again, I just got out of my mouth that I'd never see these fail, but I get why this is a fear. You know, a lot of people, it's not just about, is the practice going to fail? It's, will I be a good business owner? Will I be a good leader? No one wants to admit it, but that fear is there, right? It's something you have to kind of come to terms with. That's why I love what I do is I get to coach these new business owners on, okay, I was a great technician, a great dentist, but now I've actually got to be a good business owner too. And I think I talked about, lean in those first couple months on becoming a really good business owner. That'll really help eliminate some of that fear. So, in my 20 years in entrepreneurship, I've found great success, but even I still have that fear. And I'm glad that it's there. It's the accountability I need to keep learning more than anything else, to keep being curious, to not beat up on myself, but to know that, okay, yes, there's ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, but I always come out the other side of them. In today's business climate, there will be rapid changes that are out of your control. Think about how things were 10 years ago and how they are today. You can't control the environment. You can't control the economy and consumerism. You can't control the markets. This is just what it is. And so that is why I suggest getting great advisors around you that will guide you. Don't lean into them so much that you can't make your own decisions. Let them guide you. Don't get the overbearing ones that are like, no, you can't do this. You can only spend this percentage on this. You can only do. No, this is your practice. You are ridiculously in charge of this process. This is yours. Own it. But just get good advice. Um, I personally, I don't hire consultants because they more tell you, like I just said. So if you know good ones that you can trust and that people have highly recommended, that's great. But again, this is yours, and make sure that you do it in a way that fits your vision. Because here's the thing. This is about you, but the beginning is really the only time you have the opportunity to get it truly perfect and right. And it's never going to be perfect, but really starting out on the right foot. Again, for those of you that have already launched or you've had several practices and you're getting ready to launch a startup, you're still in good shape too. But this is a different beast. Startups are a different game. So I also want to talk about what you should be learning. So, I said, okay, in this first couple months, really lean into it. Honestly, before you open, you should lean into this too. So take the time to learn about business. Hire a business coach. This is the plug I can make. I was a marketing guy. I still do a lot of marketing and branding, but I got into business coaching and got certified for this very reason, because I want people to be great local community leaders. I want them to be good business owners. I want them to retain their staff. I want them to, be able to acquire patients through referrals. And that comes honestly with great leadership, developing a healthy culture, building out great processes and systems. Man, I'm telling you right now, you've got to develop standard operating procedures or they will get developed for you. And you need to learn how to ultimately build value in your brand. And the number one way you do that in the beginning is you've got to spend time in your community. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in another episode, but embrace that time to do that. I tell a story a lot about a doctor several years ago who made it a point. He went out and had coffee with another local business owner each week. And I've mentioned this before. I'll probably mention it again before the end of this limited series. It's crucial that you network with other owners in your area. This is not only to help you get a better understanding of ownership and some of those complications, but also this could lead to referrals, right? So think of it as I'm doing business development when I go out and have coffees or lunches or drinks or whatever it is. But I would make it a point to be doing that in the beginning, maybe once a week, then maybe once a month. Then you kind of have your group after that. But take that first 6 months and graduate into entrepreneurship. It's awesome. This is truly, 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 truly how I've seen very successful doctors grow their practice. There are a lot of people out there rooting for you, a lot of people that are counting on you. So learn the skills to impress them, But most importantly, go out there and impress yourself. So we're going to, in the next section, we're getting ready to go into section 2, where we're going to really talk about this components of internal branding, the leadership, culture, and how are you going to develop those ideal patients into people that refer so that you have a referral-based, relationship-based practice. Look forward to talking with you then.